Herodotus. The great Greek historian Herodotus, 484 to 425 BC, is credited with the first description of the tall poppy syndrome TPS metaphor in his The Histories. However, the object cut down was wheat, not the poppy flower. He reported on Thrasybulus's, triumphant tyrant of Miletus, message to ally Periander, tyrant of Corinth, after his request regarding governance. Lop off the heads of wheat. The disguised meaning was cut down the prominent opposition. Separately in the Histories, Herodotus also recorded two other events that are important to the eventual description of the TPS metaphor using the poppy flower. He described a self-mutilated Zopyrus' scheme to infiltrate Babylon, gain the trust of their leaders, and then sabotage their defenses, permitting Persian King Darius to invade in 522 BC. This description resembles Homer's description of Odysseus, who spied on Troy after mutilating himself. The other event was the expulsion of the tyrants of Athens because of a love affair in 510 BC. These latter paragraphs will gain meaning in the final recounting of Tarquin the Proud's reign. Livy. The renowned Roman historian Livy, 59 BC to 12 AD, wrote the first 5 books of his histories between 29 to 27 BC. These books covered Rome's founding in 753 BC to the Gallic occupation in 386 BC. This is extremely important since the Greeks sacked Rome, which would have included their libraries. In short, where did Livy get his information regarding the Roman kingdoms and the early Roman Republic? Livy explained history through representative individuals and human characters, the same techniques Aristotle and Thucydides used. Thucydides contended that human nature is constant and predictable. As such, people will predictably do what they are predetermined to do. A like individual will do what his predecessor did 500 years earlier. Livy also constructed moral episodes which define the character of principal figures. Tarquin the Proud. The Roman kingdom was the earliest period of Roman history, when the city and surrounding areas were ruled by kings, with a personally selected, powerless senate. The kingdom began with the city's founding in 753 BC. It ended with the overthrow of Tarquin the Proud and the establishment of the Republic in 509 BC. Tarquinius Priscus was the 5th king and had 2 sons. Instead of his kingdom passing to one of these sons, it went to an adopted son, Servius Tullius, 578 to 535 BC. Servius had 2 daughters and wanted to keep the kingdom in his family. Servius arranged for his 2 daughters to marry Tarquinius's sons, Lucius Tarquin and Aruns. His ploy failed miserably. The marriages became matches made in hell. Spousal envy resulted in the murders, TPS, of Tarquin's wife and his brother, familial envy. The complacent widow, Tullia, married Tarquin. Tullia approved, encouraged, and enabled Tarquin's dark emotions. Tarquin began to openly malign and vilify King Servius, who was now an old man. Tarquin usurped the throne, envy, claiming that Servius was not a rightful king. His assassins then killed tall poppy Servius, perhaps at the suggestion and encouragement of his wife. With a heart laden with dark emotions and a deranged mind over the killings of her former husband and sister, Tullia drove over her father with a carriage, carrying his blood on her clothes and carriage back to her home. This new reign was hatched, secured, and became the purveyor of dark emotions. Lucius Tarquinius Superbus, Tarquin the Proud, 535 to 509 BC, was Rome's 7th and final king, with the appropriate moniker Pride. His rule began by executing senators, tall poppy, who did not support him. Since the people had not elected him, nor had the Senate sanctioned him, he ruled by fear and in fear, a bodyguard at all times. times. Tarquin was a capable soldier and scored many conquests. The neighboring town of Gabai matched his military might. This caused him to resort to his strengths, deceit and treachery. Sextus, the youngest of 3 sons, was dispatched under the ruse of an abused son escaping a cruel father. This was imitated from Herodotus's description of Zopyrus's plot against Babylon. He was gradually accepted by leaders and admitted to powerful councils. With his mission accomplished, his next move was unclear. The tall poppy syndrome. Sextus sent a confidential messenger to seek Tarquin's counsel regarding the implementation of the next scheme. Tarquin could not ascertain the legitimacy of the carrier and spoke not a word. He wandered about the garden with a stick, knocking off the heads of the tall poppies, TPs. This was copied from Herodotus's description of Thrasybulus's message to Periander and substituting poppies for wheat. When the field of poppies was uniform, Tarquin returned to his business. The messenger, frustrated by Tarquin's silence, anger, ignorance, and arrogance, returned to Gabai thinking he had failed. The messenger reported his encounter to Sextus, who recognized his next move. Remove all influential men of Gabai, TPS, through various methods. The TPs were cut down. Gabai fell to Tarquin without a fight. Sextus then joined Tarquin's forces on the assault of Rutuli. During the campaign, Sextus met an officer, Collatinus, and later raped his wife, Lucretia. Distraught, she committed suicide. She and her husband were also friends of Brutus, son of Tarquin's sister. Brutus knew of Tarquin's murder of aristocrats, which included his brother. Brutus was present shortly after Lucretia's suicide and pulled the knife from her. He vowed to pursue Tarquin, his wicked wife, and his children, and destroy their reign of terror. Lucretia's body was carried to the public square, where a crowd gathered. The scene generated great anger towards Sextus and empathy for Lucretia's family. A rebellion resulted. Brutus wailed against Tarquin for killing Servius Tullius. The crowd demanded the rescinding of the king's authority. Tarquin and 2 of his sons were forced into exile, TPS. His wife wandered about the countryside, never escaping vengeance for killing her own blood. Sextus returned to Gabai, where he was assassinated, TPS. Brutus and Collatinus were elected consuls by popular vote, and the Roman Republic was formed in 509 BC. The tyrants of Athens were expelled in 510 BC as a result of a love affair. It should be noted that Livy used a Greek template for much of his Roman history, including the tall poppy syndrome.